As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
What makes gold and silver real money in contrast to the U.S. dollar?
Well, I'd like to start with the dollar because it's not money, and here's the difference, and this is a key point, and it's overlooked by intelligent people, and it explains a lot of things. The dollar is declared as legal tender. What that means is the government has said the dollar can be used to settle debts, public and private, and to carry out transactions. You pay your rent, you buy your milk. You take a loan from Joe, and he pays you off the $20 he owes you, and you get dollars. That doesn't mean the dollar's money. It means it's legal tender and to be used in the society and economy. Well, in primitive cultures, they use salt. 300 years ago in the U.S., in the colonies, many parts of the nation, before it was actually a nation, used wampum, which was beaver pelts and other skins. So, you can make any agreement you want on what you use as legal tender. It doesn't make it money. The dollar by its nature is backed by U.S. government debt. And, they don't come out and say, here, we've got the dollar, and it's backed by our Treasury debt, U.S. government debt, and unfortunately our debt is growing. Now, they don't talk that way. That's a default statement and conclusion. Something always underpins a currency. If it's not gold-backed, it's based on faith. Well, then the faith is on what? Faith based on Idi Amin and his declaration in Uganda that this is the currency that we will make good? Okay, it's based on people's word. It's based on actions of a central bank. It's based on action of a government. It's based on performance of their debt. And that's what's going on with the United States. In effect, the dollar is a debt-denominated coupon with 1, 5, 10, 20, and 100 markings for usage in a broken economy. So the conclusion is that the U.S. citizen wealth is now subject to write-downs because of the problems with the money. It's not money. The dollar's not money. Ask people, what's the difference between money and legal tender? And they look at you like you're crazy. But the write-downs are also going to happen with the U.S. government debt. We've in a sense, got a tremendous write-down coming for our whole society. All right, what is real money? We know what the dollar is. It's legal tender, and it's badly abused. What is real money? Well, gold and silver qualify as real money from the criteria that a lot of our historians and experts have studied and declared. And here are the requirements. I'm going to go one by one. It must be fungible, which means, well, you've got a bar of gold. I've got a bar of gold. Well, we can trade. And they're both good as long as they have, approval of say, purity. And they've got stamps on them. My stamp might have the U.S. government on it. Your stamp might have a Canadian mint on it. Another one might have a Russian mint on it. Another one might have the Krugerrand coin. All right, so there are lots of standards for fungibility, which means that you can trade, and that they're all good. Doesn't matter which you hold, they're all good. It must be transportable, which means I can take mine and go down to Guatemala from New York and set up shop, create a business and whatever, and use my gold coins, which are recognized as I transport to Guatemala. Or a guy in Europe and Switzerland can move to Norway and take his, bars of silver, and they'll be recognized and transportable and redeemable. They must be recognized, which is kind of mixed in with points I've been making. Gold, even in South African nations, in the Middle East, in primitive cultures, gold is recognized. All right, that's very important. It must stand the test of time. And I like to make a couple of examples. One is cute and one is more in tune with historical events. If I decide that I'm going to bury at sea, not so much sea, but in Lake Michigan, the northern suburbs of Chicago, say, I go, 600 yards out, and I'm right next to this one buoy, and I go down, and it's 250 feet deep, and I bury it in a chest. All right, I can bring that back up in 4 years, and it's still gold coins. It's still good. It's still valid. And the other one is you could find a shipwreck 100 years from now after you bury, somewhere in the Caribbean off your favorite island. Well, maybe you get killed or you die. And someone discovers your chest of gold that's buried next to the Bermuda Islands using your map that they discovered in their basement, whatever. Okay, there are lots and lots of stories of discoveries, and there are a lot more to be discovered because there was so much war back then. If you bring it back up 100 years later, it's still good. It stands the test of time. It must also be inert, which means copper cannot be money because it oxidizes and turns green. Anyone who's got some drip on an old bathtub in an old house, you might see a little green stain next to the drip. Well, that's from copper oxidizing on your plumbing, your pipes feeding the bathroom. And the last thing, it must not be counterfeitable, which, the dollar is one of the most counterfeited currencies in the history of mankind. It's being counterfeited by the CIA. They stole some Department of Treasury plates back in 2005. There are widespread stories that Iran is the world's best counterfeiters outside the United States. That's one of the conflict points that we have with Iran. They're counterfeiting the $100 bills. As soon as we come out with a new one, they counterfeit that too. They just get a copy and get their craftsmen to make new ones, and they've got the metal plates, and they know how to do it anyway. So fungibility, portability, recognition, standing time, inert, and counterfeiting, those are the criteria necessary to qualify for real money. And outside of gold and silver, you just don't have any. We've got cotton-based paper parchment as the basis with ink on it for dollars. With little metal strips, to be sure, and clever watermarks, to be sure. I mean, we got a quote from John Snow, who was a Department of Treasury secretary for the Bush II administration. He actually has a quote. He said, the most important thing for a strong currency is make it difficult to counterfeit. No, it's not. It's gold backing. I mean, some people wonder, why was John Snow ever selected by the Bush administration to be a Treasury secretary when he had no finance experience? I mean, people need to really start asking critical questions out there. What did John Snow bring to the table? He was the CSX Railroad CEO, the executive, a railway executive with distribution centers and port facility access. Can you say narcotics distribution? That's what he brought to the Treasury Department. Narcotics distribution routes.